Welcome to today's edition of the Rush 24/7 podcast.
Hey, great to have you here, folks. Back at it, Rush Limbaugh and the gang here at the EIB network. The highly overrated staff and their contributions, along with mine, ready to go. We're here at 800-282-2882, the email address lrushmo@eibnet.us. Every day, it's something. Every day, there's at least one blockbuster or two. And today is no different. And as you've come to expect, we're going to get into all of it, each and every detail. If I don't talk about it here, you don't need to know about it. That's all you have to know. Be assured of that. And even if it takes a couple, 3 days, we get to everything that does matter. And remember, until I've weighed in on it, you essentially don't know what to think about anything. Again, 800-282-2882, the email address, lrushmo@eibnet.com. Look, I don't want to start off here with a nye. See, I told you so, but man, I called it, I predicted it. Yesterday we had the cabinet meeting, and it was amazing. All of these cabinet secretaries, first cabinet meeting with every cabinet secretary there. It's taken this long to have them all confirmed. And so they're there, and it started out with each cabinet secretary, like the first day, back at school from the summer. What you did during the summer, who you are, who's your neighbor, what have you been working on, what are you going to be working on, how much you like the teacher. And, of course, all that happened. Cabinet secretary said that the ones that have been there described the work they're doing as it relates to the Trump agenda. They talked about how great Trump is, how much they're honored to be part of the Trump administration and the regime, how thrilled they are to be part of the cabinet, how exciting the agenda is, and the drive-bys were fit to be tied. The media was fit to be tied. The Democrat Party was fit to be tied. It's mostly psychological. Trump and his people are not supposed to be smiling. They're supposed to be defeated. They're people supposed to be defecting from Trump's cabinet by now. People supposed to be publicly resigning and raking Trump over the coals for being whatever the left thinks he is. I mean, they've loaded the guns every day. They have fired the best they've got, and Trump is still there. Trump is still standing. Trump is still smiling. His cabinet's still happy to be there and honored. And it doesn't seem to be affecting Trump at all, at least outwardly, which is what the opponents of Trump want. They want to see some sign that they're getting to him. They want to see some sign that Trump is beginning to crumble. They want to see any indication whatsoever that all of these political assassinations and these hit pieces and that the silent coup taking place, they want evidence. They want visible evidence and examples that it's working, and Trump just isn't giving it to them. This cabinet thing set them off anew yesterday. And we have here a number of elements to show to you and to bring to your attention just how affected they were by it. Let's start with the audio sound bites. I mentioned this the end of the program yesterday, but we didn't have time to play it. Now, if you are the leader of the Democrats in the Senate, your name happens to be Chuck Schumer, if you have time to gather your staff together and write a Saturday Night Live type script for a video, and then you take the time to get your staff together and you produce this video, it must mean that you don't have a whole lot that's important going on. And it must mean that you really don't have any power worth talking about. If this is what you think your time is most productively spent on, then I think it's an indication of how vacant and absent the Democrat Party is of real leadership. They are absent an agenda other than we've got to get rid of Trump. That's it in toto, plus their newfound fascination with the F-bomb being used in public. So we mentioned that Schumer and his boys had put together a video mocking Trump. And once again, taking their cues from the media, because the media, as you know, is running the left-wing opposition to Trump. The Democrats are just placeholders in elective office where hopefully they get to implement what the media directs them to do. But here's the audio. Schumer and staff, it's a video mocking the Trump cabinet meeting.
I want to thank everybody for coming. I just thought we'd go around the room. Lucy, how'd we do on the Sunday show yesterday?
Your tone was perfect. You were right on message.
Michelle, how'd my hair look coming out of the gym this morning?
You have great hair. Nobody has better hair than you.
Before we go any further, I just want to say thank you for the opportunity and blessing to serve your agenda.
That's great.
There you go. And that circulated all over, and the drive-bys thought it was great. They thought it was funny. It's an audition tape for Saturday Night Live. But if you've got time to do this, then you must not really have much that's important going on. And, of course, did any of that make you laugh? I don't know if any of you have seen it, but did any of it make you laugh? Did those people sound funny? Yeah, when you see the video, these people look stupid. See, the difference is that Trump's cabinet meeting was real. They think it was all fake. They think exactly what happened was that Trump called a pre-meeting. And all of these cabinet secretaries walk in there, and Trump gave them marching orders. Trump gave them a script. Okay, you're going to talk about how brilliant I am, and you're going to talk about how happy you are to be here, and you're going to talk about there's no better cabinet meeting it's ever been except this one. There's no better president. You're going to do the same thing, but you're going to start out saying there's no better president, and you've never been more honored to do anything. And he goes down the cabinet list, tells everybody what to say. Then they have the meeting, let the cameras in. The Democrats and the media think Trump's cabinet meeting was scripted. It was planned, probably rehearsed. If you watch it, it was genuine. It was legitimate. It was improv. It was ad-lib. There were not people reading scripts. The laughter was genuine. You can't fake that. In the Schumer video/audio, it sounds stiff. There isn't anything funny about it. And it's not even good parody, because if you do not know, stop and think of this, folks. Let's say you're a low-information voter in line with your food stamp card, and you're out there trying to become an Amazon Prime member, and you haven't had time to pay attention to the news. But you spent a lot of time thinking about and voting Democrat, and you see this Chuck Schumer video, but you haven't seen the Trump cabinet meeting. What must you have thought? There's no indication that it's satire. There's no indication it's parody. The Democrats don't have a sense of humor, either collectively or individually, so they didn't pull this off. Next up, Wolf Blitzer's CNN panel, and they mocked the Trump cabinet meeting. Now, these people don't just have contempt for Trump. They have contempt for you and me, folks. They have contempt for any of us who happen to support Trump or more likely oppose them. A lot of Americans elected Donald Trump and that cabinet to pursue a specific agenda, and it is not a joke to millions of Americans who voted for it and who happened to elect it, and the CNN people just once again can't come to grips with it. We have here Jeffrey Toobin, Chris Cillizza, Blitzer, and somebody named Ron Brownstein from The Atlantic.
Wolf, can I say something? Strange.
Yes.
Wolf,
go ahead, Jeffrey.
Can I say, I just want to thank you for having me on
I knew that was coming,
Room.
Toobin.
Yeah.
Classic Toobin.
I think you're doing such a great job in general, but especially today, and it's just an honor to be here with you.
I'm surprised Jeff didn't mention your suit, which is a nice fit on you. It's an oversight by Jeff, but I want you to know I mentioned your suit.
You know what these people don't get? Here they are parroting, trying to parody. They have no sense of humor. They can't pull it off. They are filled with rage. They are angry that that Trump cabinet meeting happened. They're angry that it was real. They are angry that it worked. They are angry that it was genuine. And they're angry that Trump, as I say, is not cowering and going away and slinking away and acting hurt and despondent and all that. But the real irony for this, to me, is that this is exactly how these people acted with Obama. You go to your average White House press briefing, and your question, what have you found most inspiring about your time in the White House? What is it that has made you enjoy poetry even more since having moved to the White House? Can you tell us? Are you as thrilled as we are that you were here? Those were the kind of questions we got. every day, an example at it. Your average White House press, I mean, you talk about sycophancy. I mean, if it had kept on, the White House press corps might have died from anal poisoning because of what they were kissing every day. And it was just, and they don't understand. They look at the Trump cabinet meeting and it's genuine and real, and they resent it. They instinctively resent it because they know it's real. They go out there and try to make fun of it, and they end up making themselves look exactly like they did during an Obama press conference. You talk about scripted or planned or devoted or it's an honor to be in your press corps, sir. It's an honor, and I would love to be sitting close to you at the White House Correspondents. It is such an honor. Can you tell me? And whatever Obama said, whether it made sense or not, was the most brilliant thing any president had ever said. So while they're trying to parody the Trump cabinet meeting, what they're actually doing is demonstrating their natural state in the way they were behaving every day with Obama. Here's David Axelrod, last night CNN Anderson Cooper question, how unusual is a cabinet meeting like that? I mean, it's the first full cabinet meeting, so is it kind of normal for what happened to happen?
It is not unusual if you live in North Korea. But here in the U.S., that is very unusual. I attended cabinet meetings. I've never seen anything like that. Look, you have an embattled president who wants to change the narrative, and he enlisted his cabinet to do that. And but I think at some expense to them, because they looked so servile that it was absurd. It was like a competition to see who could be more obsequious. You know, when the president says, I wouldn't think of asking people for loyalty pledges, but this was, in a sense, asking for a loyalty pledge and asking them to parade in front of the cameras and offer testimonials. It was an embarrassing thing.
North Korea? See, my friends, this validates my point. This is not the way Trump's supposed to be. He's supposed to be defeated by now. He's supposed to be worn to a frazzle. He's supposed to be barely functioning. He's supposed to be babbling there, making no sense when he speaks up. And there's not anybody left that's supposed to still love and respect the guy, particularly the people closest to him in his cabinet. North Korea. Yeah, it's not unusual if you live in North Korea. I've never seen anything like this. That's the point, folks. That is precisely the point. Everybody's tired of the way it's always been done, and everybody's tired of the way it's always looked, and everybody's tired of the predictable, formulaic things that are said and done in Washington. Trump was sent there to shake things up. He's doing it, and he's not backing off from doing it. Here's John Dickerson. He is the CBS political director. He was on CBS this morning. He also hosts Slay the Nation. Norah O'Donnell, fresh from her bathwater, said, we saw what can clearly be described as an unusual cabinet meeting yesterday, John. Each of Trump's secretaries praising the president, saying it's an honor and a blessing to serve him. Who organized it this way? And why did they do it?
It was an extraordinary bath of adulation. I'm not sure what the organizing principle was. It was clearly a public relations effort to bolster the presidency. Imagine if that were used to talk about the agenda for the forgotten man that the president ran on, to talk about the opioid crisis, to talk about things that were being done for the people that elected him, as opposed to just merely offering praise after praise.
Did you catch that Trump should be working on the opioid crisis, trying to help people that elected him? So a bunch of opioid hicks elected Trump and he's neglecting them. The basic point there, this is an uppity leftist here, John Dickerson, CBS News. But his point is, this is just silly. These guys up there pledging loyalty to serve Trump. This is unusual. We've never heard of this. Trump and they should have been talking about the agenda. Well, the fact of the matter is they did. Except the drive-bys are not sharing that portion of the meeting with you, but they all discussed the agenda. Typical fake news to claim it wasn't discussed. Here is a sample.
Law enforcement all over America, they have been very frustrated They are so thrilled that we have a new idea that we're going to support them and work together to properly, lawfully fight the rising crime that we're seeing.
The apprenticeship program is going to make a real difference.
I had the great privilege to represent America in China at the Green Energy Ministerial. They needed to hear why America was stepping away from the Paris Accord, and they did.
We were able to also focus on the forgotten man and woman who were the folks who were paying those taxes.
Actually arrived back this morning at 1 o'clock from Italy, and the G7 summit focused on the environment, and our message there was the United States is going to be focused on growth.
We are engaged with our allies to ensure that they know where our common interests lie, what our expectations are, that America will continue to be a leader, but they must do more.
We are grateful for the sacrifices our people are making in order to strengthen our military, so our diplomats always negotiate from a position of strength.
A 70% drop in illegal immigration.
We're making tremendous progress and converting to a business model. I'm already seeing tremendous savings.
I've been traveling around the country, and what I'm continuing to hear is this renewed optimism from small businesses.
We are focused on creating sustained economic growth, sweeping tax reform, and fighting terrorism.
So these guys are not only talking about the agenda, they are giving miniature reports on their work. Of course it hadn't been anywhere else. Out there saying, they didn't discuss the agenda, there's a bunch of sycophants out there. And by the way, I don't know how many of them even knew the word sycophancy until I used it yesterday. Now, a lot of them are using that word, by the way, to describe the cabinet. But you're not hearing this video. They did describe the agenda, and they talked about progress they're having in everything. Here are the names. It was Jeff Sessions, Alexander Acosta, Rick Perry, Mick Mulvaney, who we talked to in the Limbaugh letter earlier last week, Scott Pruitt, Rex Tillerson, James Mattis, John Kelly, Ben Carson, and Linda McMahon. Those are the people you talked. Carson, he was kind of overshadowed by the camera shutters. We're making tremendous progress at converting to a business model. Already seeing tremendous savings. He's talking about housing and urban development there. Back here in just a second, folks. Hang in there. And we're back. Great to have you, Rush Limbaugh. Cutting edge societal evolution, doing what I was born to do. There's something else here about this. One other observation I made, the media reaction to the Trump cabinet meeting yesterday. I think, and I've touched on this in an ancillary way, but I want to double back here and zero in on this. I think these people in the media, and of course their accomplices in the Democrat Party, when they hear Donald Trump addressed with respect by people that they don't consider to be Trump-like. I mean, some of the people in the cabinet, Democrats have previously associated with them, respected them, like Rex Tillerson, Rick Perry. There's any number of Trump cabinet members that the Democrats and the media have long found okay. But to hear them addressing Trump with such respect, the same kind of respect they gave Obama, very, very important. I think it just shattered them. It is so far out of their experience. The media immediately thought that they were looking at Jim Jones and the cult or at North Korea, because they can't fathom anybody respecting Trump. It just doesn't compute. They don't. And to hear Trump, it's kind of like Jimmy Carter's reaction to the Nixon funeral when he heard all of these people just praising Richard Nixon. Carter didn't understand it. Neither did his wife, Rosalind. I think it sent them for a loop yesterday. All they know is vicious hatred. They're swimming in it, and to see Trump respected and treated with respect the way they treated Obama, I think it sent them in an all-new downward spiral. Okay, coming up, the story buzzing around that Trump is going to fire Robert Mueller, the independent counsel, the latest on the entire James Comey circumstance. This continues to expand and get even more interesting. And the Shakespeare in the Park controversy. This is fascinating what's happening there. with these corporate sponsors pulling out, there's more to it than that. Some corporate sponsors are doubling down and saying, we're not going anywhere. We're going to hang in with this. We love Trump being assassinated. That would be American Express. Well, I don't know if they're saying they love Trump being assassinated, but they're not going to pull out of this. But Delta and a couple of others have. It's a fascinating story, particularly given all of these attempts to politicize sponsorships and things. It's worth discussing. We'll get into it. But I want to stick with this cabinet business for just a second, because I want to grab this call from Brian in Tucson, Arizona. I meant to mention this yesterday, and we had the audio from this yesterday, and it's one of those many things I didn't get to. Brian, great to have you. How are you doing, sir?
I'm well, Russ. How are you?
Very, very well. Great to hear from you.
As big as those. I've been on listener since about 1994. Enjoy your show.
Thank you, sir.
I just wanted to mention to you that when Clinton had his Lewinsky scandal, he brought the whole cabinet out. Donna Shalala was there, and Madeleine Albright, and they were all talking about how great Clinton was, and nobody mentioned North Korea or anything like that. No comparison at all.
Yeah, we had the audio of this. Thank you very much, Brian. I'm glad you called. It show you what a nice guy I am. I could have told Mr. Snerdley to thank Brian, but I was going to handle it myself. But I chose to take the call since Brian had gone to the trouble of calling here. I allowed Brian to bring the topic up, to acknowledge the fact that he had been listening all these years and call. I could have easily said, I don't need that call. I don't need to waste time. I got to go right into it. But I didn't do that, folks. I took the call because I love all of you. And I appreciate every contribution you make. And I remember this. This was the Lewinsky scandal. This was Clinton and the now famous, I never had sex with that woman, Miss Lewinsky, not a single time. I never asked anybody to lie. Not a single time, not ever. He's wagging that finger at everybody, and he says he didn't do it. Now, this is before everybody knew they had that blue dress. And that was going to be cook time. But at that time, everybody thought Clinton was honest as days long, and he said he didn't do it. Madeleine Albright and the Clinton cabinet waddled outside the diplomatic entrance, the diplomatic reception room, and they were angry, and they said, we support our president. They were in full sycophant mode. We support our president. This is outrageous that a lie and an allegation like this would surface, and he told us that it didn't happen and he didn't do it, and we believe him. And we're all watching this, and we're incredulous because we all know that it did happen. And we all know that Clinton is lying, but not the media. The media sycophancy on parade with Madeleine Albright. And then the fateful day came when the blue dress was discovered and everybody knew that Clinton had lied. And we got this story, September 11th, 1998. Clinton apologizes to cabinet. President Bill Clinton apologized to his cabinet and Senate Democrats in painful private meetings Thursday that produced blunt confrontations about how his behavior hurt his standing with female supporters in Congress. It did no such thing. And I don't believe that there were painful private meetings. I don't believe this for a minute. I don't think that's how it happens in the Democrat Party. I think what happens is they have a meeting. We got caught. How are we going to handle this? We sent the cabinet out to lie, but now something's going to happen. There weren't any painful hurt meetings because everybody knew from the get-go that Clinton was lying. Madeleine Albright knew it. The whole cabinet knew it. Hillary knew it. Everybody knew Clinton was lying. So these painful, hurtful meetings, and then, of course, bringing in the Reverend Jackson to have the private counseling meetings to try to overcome. Oh, it was so sad. And I don't believe a word of it. A cabinet member told CNN the meeting was extremely emotional and said at one point the president cried as he pleaded for forgiveness, asking cabinet members if they could still trust him. When the allegations against Clinton first surfaced in January, Albright stood before TV cameras with Donna Shalala and said they believed the charges were false based on what Clinton had just told them. I don't believe, folks, for a minute any of this. I think everybody knew Clinton was lying, and everybody knew he was having an affair with Lewinsky because he was having an affair with any woman that would have him, and he can be secret with it. There was no secret about this. And everybody was strategizing. They knew Clinton had been caught, so the strategy was to go out and deny, because until there was no evidence of it produced, they could get away with denying it. Then the blue dress came up and everything was blown to smithereens. What's interesting to me is the Trump cabinet meeting, I'm going to guess, was pretty above board and legit. I don't think with as much leaking as there is in that White House that Trump would dare try to script something like that. And I'll tell you this, if he had, it would have already leaked, because that White House leaks like your average colander in your kitchen. They can't keep a thing secret. If Trump had a meeting with the cabinet and everything they said was ordained and demanded and scripted and written, it would have leaked out. It didn't. The Trump meeting was legitimate. What those people said was legitimate and improvisational, and it was all positive and upbeat. It's the Democrats, it's the leftists who constantly calculate everything. It's the left that constantly pre-produce everything. It is they who conceive of schemes to get away with whatever has happened. And that's exactly what happened here. They had concocted a scheme to get away with this because there wasn't any proof. It was her versus him in terms of honesty and words, and the blue dress blew it all to smithereens. And they couldn't cover it up. But don't for a minute think that Madeleine Albright didn't, believed Clinton. Don't for a moment. That was all part of a coordinated strategy, no different than Hillary going out on the Today Show with Mount Lauer and trying to claim that this is part of a vast right-wing conspiracy. It was ridiculous. My point is projection. The Democrats project on us and the Republicans what they actually do. It is Obama that was treated with great sycophancy by his cabinet and by the media and by the Democrats. And Clinton got the same kind of treatment. And the media, when they saw Trump being treated with great respect, the kind of respect they treat with Obama, they lost it. But I want to take you back. It wasn't just the Democrats who treated Obama with sycophancy. February 28, 2009, this is 1 month into the Obama regime. Remember Obama had all these Wednesday and Thursday afternoon meetings to fix unemployment, to fix climate change. What would happen is he would bring in a bunch of sycophants, people like Thomas Loopy Friedman from the New York Times, a bunch of reporters and a bunch of think tank people. He'd bring them into the White House. They would have expertise in one area, and he would break them out into groups of 4 or 5 and send them each to a different corner of the room in the main White House, not in the West Wing, but in the main White House. For the camera and TV op, this had to be the main White House, like the East Room, the Blue Room. So that would happen at 1 o'clock. The groups would then have to report back to Obama at 5 o'clock, where the cameras would be there, and Obama would accept the reports from the various breakout groups on how they had fixed unemployment, how they had fixed climate change. They'd had all these various summits, the job summit, the climate change summit, the what have you summit, the infrastructure summit. And after 4 hours of such meetings, Obama would announce that they had fixed the problem. Maybe not in those words, but the point of it all was to create these photo-opt images that even his first month in, Obama's fixing climate change. Obama is fixing the jobs problem. Obama's already gotten started. So you have these sycophant members of the press and the think tanks in there, and they're duly reporting to Obama on how wonderful it is to be there, how wonderful it was to be chosen. There's nobody like Obama. I remember getting sick watching this stuff. This is February and March of 2009, and these people, and Obama would go to every corner of the room, and he would check in with the groups of people that were fixing these things. And I remember Thomas Loopy Friedman, I think, was in the group working on fixing unemployment. I said, why is he there? He's a foreign policy shill for the New York Times. And Friedman looked up from his chair, and he just had love and idolatry in his eyes for Obama. And everybody in the groups did. And they all praised Obama as unparalleled, unequivocally unprecedented, the greatest, the smartest, the best ever. You want to talk about kiss ass? I mean, this set the record for it. And even John McCain got involved. February 28, 2009, Eisenhower Executive Office Building. This is after one of the breakout meetings of the Fiscal Responsibility Summit. There was the Job Summit, the Climate Change Summit, the Global Warming Summit, the whatever. McCain worked in the Fiscal Responsibility Summit. Obama then spoke with participants about what they had learned. I'm not kidding, folks. We can go back to the archives at rushlimbaugh.com and repost these things. Well, I'm sure we've got pictures of these meetings, TV shots. Obama said, I'm going to start with John McCain because, you know, he and I had some good debates about these issues during the campaign on fiscal responsibility. Senator McCain, what did your group come up with? What did you learn?
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for doing this. I think it's very important, and particularly breakout session. One area that I wanted to mention that I think consumed a lot of our conversation on procurement, it was the issue of cost overruns in the Defense Department. Your helicopter is now going to cost as much as Air Force One. I don't think that there's any more graphic demonstration of how good ideas have cost taxpayers enormous amount of money.
Holy smokes, the breakout group discovered that a helicopter is going to cost as much as a Boeing 747. Wow. But see, this is what's going on. Let me ask you something. So McCain was in the breakout group on fiscal responsibility 2009. What good did it do? Obama almost doubled the national debt. But it was very important. Of course, it's very, very important. McCain, very important, Mr. President. Thank you for doing this. Very important, particularly this breakout session on fiscal response. My point is, all of this was a dog and pony show. It had no substance. There was never intended to be any substance. It was pure theater. Exactly what they're accusing Trump's cabinet meeting yesterday of being, except the big difference, Trump's cabinet meeting actually talked about problems and the things they're already doing to work on and fix those problems, and the media is lying through their teeth about this. It is Obama and Bill Clinton who were treated like rock stars. Andrea Mitchell, during NBC's live coverage back on July 27th, 2004, this is Obama, you know, this is the Democrat convention time. Obama is a rock star. As he stepped down from the podium, Obama told biographer David Mendel, I'm LeBron, baby. I can play on this level. I got game. And the media goes on to just wax eloquent about an unparalleled, brand new, state-of-the-art politician Obama is way back in 2004. Made all of us sick. I'm sure you remember this stuff. Okay, here you go. This is Madeleine Albright. We got the audio back. This is on January 23rd, 1998. It's outside the White House. Clinton has just done his, I never had sex with that woman, not a single time. Ms. Lewinsky, I never even heard of that. This didn't happen. And I didn't lie. I never asked anybody to lie. Now, I got to get back to work for the American people. Yeah, you can hear cheering back in the background. And then Madeleine Albright led the cabinet. They waddled out of there. Diplomatic reception room.
I believe that the allegations are completely untrue.
I'll second that. Definitely.
Third it.
So that was William Daley, brother of Boss Daley in Chicago, and Donna Shalala. And it was just a few weeks later that they all had to go out there. And I maintain to you that they knew on January 28th that Clinton had done it. January 23rd, they knew Clinton had done it. Everybody in the White House knew he had done it. For crying out loud, the woman was everywhere in there. Hillary knew. All these sessions where Clinton tried to put back his life together and meeting with Jesse Jackson. That's the theatrics. Where's this Dan Rather? Remember this, folks. The Clintons owned 60 Minutes. Steve Kroft was their only chosen interviewer because Steve Kroft would lick the floor talking to him. His tongue was hanging out so far. And Dan Rather was the same. CBS, May 27, 1993. This is long before Lewinsky. Dan Rather interviewed, and Connie Chung was there, Bill Clinton. And here's the question. that Dan Rather asked. Mr. President, if we could be 1/100th as great as you and Hillary Rodham Clinton have been together in the White House, we'd take it right now and walk away winners. That was a question. You know, Clinton's sitting there basking in the glow. Dan, you know what? I know you love me. I know you're... Dan, you're nuts. You're crazy. I would never ask you to be anywhere officially near me doing anything at all. But I will take the sycophancy you've got all day long. How do I answer this? Dan, you'll never be 1/1000th as good as I am. In your dreams, dude. But nevertheless, he answered the question with some meaningless pap. Here is Catherine, Valley Forge, Virginia. Valley Forge, right to Pennsylvania. I knew it. How are you, Catherine?
I'm swell. Rush, I have to tell you, I'm going to speak for tons and tons of people. I just hope you know how many of us admire you. We're grateful for how strong you are in saying what you say, and we keep you in our prayers.
Well, thank you very much. I hear this a lot, and I can't tell you how meaningful it is, how deeply I appreciate it and recognize it. I do. Thank you.
Well, it's the truth. Thank you. I'm so grateful to be able to say this because this issue of the cabinet meeting, when it's like we have two languages in this country now. When the president had his first full-team cabinet meeting, and these cabinet members, which is such an honor, say that they're honored to serve their country, they were grateful that they were selected, and they're honored and excited to work for the American people and do great things. To me, and I think a lot of people, it sounds normal and decent. It's like what you would do, and here's the corny part. It's almost like first day of school you say the Pledge of Allegiance because you're proud and you're grateful and you're glad. And then when the other side is snarky and they make fun, they simply don't speak the language. They don't get it.
That's exactly right. That is so well said. That is, here they are making fun of people who like the job, making fun of people who love the country, making fun of people in their sincerity for the appreciation to have the honor to do the job. I would consider it an honor to be in the White House. No way could I look at that as ever being a prison. Trump had another meeting today at the White House with senators on Obamacare. Remember, we had the news yesterday that the parliamentarian has ruled they can do this with reconciliation, don't need 60 votes. It's moving down the road. It may actually get passed. So Trump brought some senators up. Same thing that happened. You'll hear in a moment. Hi, how are you? It's great to have you back, my friends. Rush Limbaugh here at the Excellence in Broadcasting Network and the Limbaugh Institute for Advanced Anti-Leftist Studies. Phone number 800-282-2882. Fastest 3 hours in media. So, again, we're going to get to this ongoing narrative here that Trump is thinking about firing the independent counsel, special counsel Robert Mueller. There doesn't appear to be any truth to that. That got started. Chris Ruddy, very, very close friend of President Trump's. Very tight, those two. Ruddy was in the White House, just had a meeting, and he heard Jay Sekulow say something on TV that it sounded to Ruddy like Trump was considering firing Mueller. But apparently that's not the case. Frankly, folks, I'm kind of getting into this sooner than I wanted to, but I don't know why Mueller's been, I don't understand this at all. I don't understand. And we now know that Mueller has hired a bunch of Obama and Clinton donors to be his investigative staff. I mean, he's hired some genuine sycophants. I'm sorry to be using that word, but it applies. He's hired some genuine, true Obama and Clinton believers, and some of them, many of them are warriors, a lot of them are huge donors. Many of them are radical extremists in terms of followers of Obama and Clinton. And we know, folks, I don't care whether you go to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, whether you go to the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals, where you go to supposedly where the greatest legal minds in America are in the American judiciary, all of these leftists have been reduced to rank juvenile partisanship. They are all consumed here with this irrational hatred for Trump and everything he is and stands for. And for Mueller to go hire a bunch of these people, the idea that the independent counsel's fair and open-minded and the scales of justice will be equally balanced, what a crock. These are prosecutors. What is the objective of a prosecutor? To send somebody to jail. That's the objective. They're not in there. They're not in these jobs to let people go. They're not in these jobs to let people off. An independent counsel or any prosecutor is there to get convictions. And if they don't think they can get convictions, then they try to get plea deals on guilty pleas. But can you think of an independent counsel who has ever finished his investigation and announced he didn't find anybody who did anything wrong? Nope, you can't, because there's no way that could ever happen. There's so much money spent on these things that to do an investigation, it takes years, certainly months, and then to call a press conference, hey, we couldn't find anything anybody did wrong. Well, what were you doing? Well, we investigated thoroughly and nobody broke any laws. We can't find any crimes here. The guy wouldn't get out of the briefing room alive. So Mueller's got to find something. The fact that he's been hired alone means he's got to find something. And if he can't find it, he's got to manufacture it, as in a process crime, catching somebody lying to federal agents or lying to federal prosecutors. So I don't understand why. I know Rosenstein, the deputy AG, hired the guy, and he's got a great reputation inside the Washington establishment, which should tell you everything you need to know. Now, the icing on the cake, the guy's hiring a bunch of Democrat operatives as his lead warriors and investigators. And we are told that, well, don't worry about that. These are the epitome of fair and objective. These are nonpartisan. There's no such thing as a nonpartisan leftist. There just isn't. Look, it's a long way around saying that if Mueller got fired, I wouldn't be upset by it. Rush, though, but can you imagine the storm that would erupt? I could fire Comey and then fire this. He can do it. He can do it. He runs the executive branch. Is the President of the United States obligated to hire people whose objective it is to destroy him? And is it the obligation of the president to stand aside and let that happen? Well, no, Rush, but that's not what the independent counsel is. You can't sit there and say that the guy's been hired to destroy Trump. In this case, I think we can. Comey admitted that he did what he did to ensure the hiring of a special counsel, because Comey had become compromised. Anything Comey would have rendered as a result of his investigation would have been problematic because of all of the mistakes that he made in the Hillary Loretta Lynch thing. We have details on that. There are more on that today, too. And the mistakes he's made here with Trump. So he had to get an independent counsel. But what does Comey want? Is there any doubt what Comey wants? Comey wants Clinton exonerated, wants Trump in trouble. So we've got Robert Mueller, who we are told is not just a close associate, but, I mean, these are BFF type guys, best friends forever, Mueller and Comey. So just at the outset here, this picture doesn't appear kosher. It doesn't appear up and up to me. And the fact that so many leftists in the media are all excited about this, I don't know, folks. But Rush, he can't fire the FBI director and then the independent counsel inside 3 weeks. Yes, he can. It's just whether or not he wants to put up with the storm, whether he wants to deal with, and I guarantee you that if he did it, you would see voluminous opposition from the right, from the Republicans, and from various supposed conservative publications, think tanks. I mean, it would be vicious, not to mention what the Democrats and the media would be saying. But at the same time, is the president obligated to tie one arm behind his back? Is the president obligated to hamstring? No, Rush, but a president's not allowed to get away with cheating either. What cheating? Collusion with the Russians. Rush, you know it as well. No, I don't know it. That's the whole thing that bothers me. We don't have any evidence of a crime having been committed anywhere. All of this is Twilight Zone-ish. It's surreal. An independent counsel? Are you kidding me? And the moment we get one, what do the left start saying? Watergate. What's Watergate? The one time the Washington establishment was able to get rid of a Republican president in office. And they have been salivating to do it again ever since. And now they think they've gotten really close. And an independent counsel is the first. And what did Nixon do? Nixon fired Lawrence Walsh, who was the independent counsel looking into Watergate. And he made Attorney General do it. The Attorney General refused to do it, so Nixon fired the Attorney General and went in there and kept hiring people until they would say they would do it. And Robert Bork said he would do it, and he did it. And all we know is the rest. So, but it's obviously the path forward here that's been chosen by the Trump opposition. Very, very clear. So firing Mueller, likelihood, zilch, zero, nada. Would it bother me? No. Trump was sent there to drain the swamp. He was sent there to clean the place out. He was sent there to turn things upside down. He was sent there, and by the way, he was sent there because he made it plain he wanted to do these things. He wanted to drain the swamp. He wanted to turn the place upside down and drain it out. And look what is being employed here to stop Trump. The Democrats can't stop him in Congress with votes. So the Democrats are not a factor. The media is their best shot at stopping Trump with just fake news, lying coverage, the effort to destroy his character, his life, his politics, his family, and everything else. But now look at what they're doing. The epitome, the quintessential epitome of the way the establishment operates, an independent counsel. And I know what you're saying. But Rush, his own Justice Department hired the guy. I know. Baffles me. I know. Rosenstein, the Deputy Attorney General, hired the guy. Why? Well, because there's pressure out there from the Democrats. We need an independent counsel. We need to get to it because Comey so botched everything he was doing. Truth be known, whatever Comey had come up with, nobody would have accepted because he's been so compromised here. But an independent counsel, I mean, you can't get anything more classic Washington political class establishment than an independent counsel or special counsel. Because it's the epitome. You have a rigged game that everybody claims is independent. Meaning it's independent of the Justice Department. It's independent of but it really isn't, because the hire is in the executive branch, and therefore the president's in charge of independent counsels. Special counsels in this case, whatever. So to me, it looks like the opposition here is getting their ducks all in a row, and again, over nothing. Now, magically, for a year, the story is collusion, Russia and Trump. Let's not forget that we remembered yesterday that it was the Obama administration and the Department of Homeland Security that was hacking various states and their election systems. States that had refused to go along with an Obama idea to nationalize aspects of elections, states that had said, no, Obama was hacking them due to the Department of Homeland Security. All these things the Democrats are throwing their hands up in anger over, they have done. They have hacked voting machines. They have hacked states' voting systems. Obama did it. For a year, we had to deal with this allegation of collusion between Trump and the Russians. And then the Comey hearings. Well, before that, the Comey firing. And in the Comey firing, Donald Trump mentions in his letter, despite the fact that you've told me 3 times I was never a target of the investigation, you're still a bad guy, and I'm still getting rid of you. Sayonara. And the media said, there's no way Comey, no special counsel, no FBI director, no attorney general would ever tell anybody they're not a target. That's never done. It would never happen. Trump is lying. And then Trump's claims are validated by no less than Comey himself. Yes, I did. I told him 3 separate times that he was not under investigation. Wait a minute. Then what has this been about? If Trump was never a target, he was never being investigated, and for a year we've had an investigation into Russian collusion with the election. When's this investigation going to end, by the way? What is this investigation? Who is actually doing it? What is it consist of? We don't even know that. But anyway, the point now is that now we've and this is crucially important. Members of Congress have known since February that Trump was not a target. The media and Democrats in Congress have known Trump was not a target, and despite knowing that, they continued to report the story as though he was the target and was the criminal and was the person around whom they were trying to collect evidence. And all the while, everybody involved knew that Trump was not a target of this investigation. He's owed an apology by everybody in the media who carried that lie, and all the Democrats who did, Chuck Schumer, Pocahontas, Elizabeth Warren, and any number of them. But the point is that after a year of this, of collusion, now there's nothing there, and automatically we have an obstruction investigation now. So Trump was accused of colluding, but Comey blew it and admitted to everybody that Trump was not a target. But now because Trump appealed to Comey on Flynn's behalf, said, hey, come on, the guy's a good guy. Now we have an obstruction investigation. Why wasn't obstruction being investigated along with collusion? Comey has known since whenever that happened that Trump said to him whatever he said about Flynn. So for a year, everybody's ramped up, everybody's amped up, everybody's focused, everybody's salivating. The Democrats and the media have great expectations that there's going to be a bombshell reveal of information that Trump did it, that he colluded, and then overnight that's dropped because Trump was never even a target. And then within seconds, we have a brand new case that is obstruction. This is all being made up. And now we have an independent counsel? These people are shopping for everything. They're looking for evidence. They're looking for a crime. They're looking for victims, and they're looking for perpetrators. And they've got nothing. And in this nothingness, we now have an independent counsel. And, of course, there are those who love the intellectual feast aspect of this to debate the need, the necessity, what he might find. And there are others of us that, what is the sense in this? There's no need for any of this, whether it's an intellectual feast or not. We can't find a crime here. The only crimes we have are those crimes that have been made up as charges in fake news stories. And now we have an independent counsel who's hired loyalists to Obama and Hillary Clinton as his lead investigators, and we're supposed to sit here and say, no big deal. These people are the epitome of balance and objectivity and fairness. Just because they may donate to Democrat candidates does not mean they cannot look at evidence of BS in capital letters. And we will be back. Don't go away. And back to the phones we go. This is Hugh in Jacksonville, Florida. Welcome, sir. Glad you waited. I know it's a big thrill to be with us, and it's great to have you here.
Yes, Rush, thank you for taking my call. It's a real pleasure to talk to you. I want to thank you for all of your logical and rational analysis of a plethora of issues. But anyway, here's my question. With all these politicians and media pundits who are trying to draw analogies between Watergate and this current situation, why are they not focusing on the similarities that do exist, and namely the Comey leaks and what happened in Watergate? A guy by the name of Mark Felt, who was the associate director back then, who was passed over after Hoover died, who later was identified 30 years later as Deep Throat for Woodward and Bernstein. There was, with the Nixon administration, there was obstruction. There was cover-up. There is no such evidence that we see of any such cover-up or obstruction in this current situation. So why is no one talking about the reality of the similarities rather than trying to trump something up?
Well, look, I understand the point that you're making here if you want to draw similarities to Watergate, but let's not forget, everybody loved Deep Throat. Woodward and Bernstein loved Deep Throat. People wanted to know who Deep Throat was for years. Hal Holbrook wasn't enough to satisfy everybody in the movie. They wanted to know who he was. And when he was announced, Mark Felt, half the people alive at the time said, who? They were let down. Mark Felt? Some FBI gumshoe? Oh, no. They were hoping for somebody powerful that they knew. It turns out that Mark Felt had begun leaking against Nixon because he was mad that Nixon didn't name him FBI director. It was purely personal. And you do have similarities. Comey, by the way, folks, I don't know. But as I continue to learn things about this, and as I continue to absorb things and read more things, it's hard not to think that James Comey has leaked a lot more than just one memo. I went back and looked at some of these news stories that cite high-placed sources in American law enforcement, high-placed government officials in the intelligence community. And some of the things that were leaked would be things only somebody in the FBI would know. And since Comey has admitted to leaking this memo of his to his law school buddy at Columbia, I mean, if it's happened once, it's likely to have happened again and again, and certainly could happen again and again. I think Comey may be a more prodigious leaker than anybody has considered. But he's also loved and adored, just like Mark Felt was. Just exactly. Not held in any negative esteem at all. Okay, now I have audio sound bites of Trump in another meeting with senators, and it is. Cookie, could you give me some of the senators in the meeting too? Because I think they're women. I think it's a meeting on Obamacare, and it's a luncheon meeting, and Trump is speaking about Obamacare. We have that, but because I'm going to do something else here first. If any of these senators spoke. Because the media is going after this meeting again like they did with the cabinet meeting yesterday. And I'm assuming that's because some senators spoke up glowingly or positively of Trump. I don't know that happened, but if they did, give me some of that too. In the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, the only evidence that we have of obstruction happens to be Loretta Lynch's attempt to obstruct the investigation into Hillary Clinton. The only evidence we have of an election being rigged is the Democrat primary. We're now, after a year of nothing, trying to. I don't think they were ever trying to convict Trump on collusion. I think they were trying to convict him in the court of public opinion and set up the necessary political realities to impeach him, but it failed. They knew Trump did not collude. That's another thing about this past year. There's some people that need to be held to account for what we have been put through this past year. They knew from the get-go that Trump was not being investigated in connection with collusion, and yet they, from Comey on down to Democrats and the media, did everything they could to lie to the American people and convince us that Trump was the target because Trump had colluded. They were just looking for the evidence. And all along, they knew Trump was not a target, and he wasn't. He was not being treated as such. For, let's say 6 months, that's 9 months. For 9 months, we have been misled, lied to, fake news, what have you. The entire country, folks. And look what it's led to. Look at the hatred they have ginned up for Trump out there in their lunatic base. Look at what it's done to people are already unstable, like Kathy Griffin and the entertainment community, these people making fools of themselves with Shakespeare in the Park, and some of these other actors and Hollywood people. They have been driven to sheer madness in their hatred for Trump because of the lying fake news reported about Trump. I mean, if you're a liberal Democrat and you really care and you've been told that Trump stole the election from your candidate, if you really believe that because your media is convincing you that Trump did it, and if your attorney general and your FBI director are going out of their way to convince you that Donald Trump's hands are dirty and he colluded, all the while they knew Trump hadn't done anything, nothing sufficient to even investigate. He wasn't even a target. I think this is such a big deal. You'll forgive my redundancy here. It's such a big deal. And every one of these people who were trying to indict Trump over the last 9 months knew that he was not a target. Senators on these investigation committees, it's like pencil neck. Adam Schiff had to know Trump was not a target. Look at all the press conferences he did. We need to get to the bottom of this. Do you have any evidence? No, sir. That's why we need to investigate. Have you seen any evidence of collusion? No. That's why the investigation is ongoing. But the investigation wasn't about Trump. And all of these people knew it. The left has driven their base crazy. And they're now doing plays in the park about assassinating Trump. Kathy Griffin with the decapitated Trump head as a photo op joke. The media and the Democrat Party are turning their voters into asylum residents. And they're being driven mad. They have been led to believe that everybody's going to get the goods on Trump. That we're going to get rid of Trump, that Trump stole the election. I will guarantee you this, that a large percentage of the rank and file in the Democrat Party, they're not critical thinkers. They just believe it. They believe it. They believe the polls showed Hillary is going to win big. They believed the polls. They believed all the news. They believed everything that Trump had no prayer. Trump was a reprobate. Trump was this. And everything they believed stood right up and hit them right between the eyes. And they continue to be lied to by people. We're going to get Trump. Trump colluded with the Russians. Russia stole the election. Trump helped. Climate change, all these things. And nothing happens. The media gets their money out of these people. The Democrats get their money out of these people. They drive them mad. They drive them insane. They create these expectations based on lies. Democrat base was never, ever going to have Trump frog marched out in shackles. Trump was never even being investigated. They didn't know that. They were being lied to. And when the day hits that it's become clear Trump was never even being investigated, you imagine? Can you imagine the rage they felt after 9 months of being convinced it was just a matter of time before Trump was in jail? And so now we're off to this collusion, this obstruction business. And the only evidence, the only obstruction that happened was Loretta Lynch attempting to obstruct the investigation into Hillary and her emails in the server. And the only election rigging we have is the Democrat National Committee rigging the primaries for Hillary and against Bernie Sanders. And now Bernie Sanders is still so ticked about it, understandably. He wants to start a brand new party. He wants to vanish from the Democrat Party. He wants to start something brand new because he thinks, along with Thomas B. Edsall in the New York Times the other day, that the Democrat Party is toast. And, in one sense, they are. But that is overshadowed by the media. Now, let's look at the Loretta Lynch obstruction, because we know that happened, and Comey has admitted to it. We don't have any evidence of Trump obstruction. We don't even have a consensus agreement that Trump asking Comey to let Flynn thing go was obstruction. They're trying to once again create that impression in people's minds. They better be very careful because their base donors and their base voters, I don't think, can handle many more of these rising expectations and assurances that Trump is going to be put in jail, only to find there's no evidence he did anything wrong. At some point, these people are going to crack. And they're not going to just start cutting heads off of dolls. And they're not just going to start using fake knives to stab people in Central Park. If this keeps up, if the media and the Democrat Party continue to raise these phony, fraudulent expectations on the part of these people on the left, they can only take being disappointed and totally let down for so long and for so much. And then if, heaven help us, if the independent counsel ever started looking at real obstruction, he would find it with Loretta Lynch and Comey. Some of the best work on this has been done by John Solomon at Circa News. Sarah Carter and John Solomon at Circa News. Solomon used to be at the AP, and he stood out 10, 12 years ago. He stood out because he was not a drive-by reporter. It's one of the reasons why he's not there. He's been at the Washington Times. He's traveled around, and finally now he and Sarah Carter are Circa News. And he's got this story. Comey got steely silence after confronting Loretta Lynch about Clinton's email probe. Here's how this story goes. The ex-FBI Director James Comey has privately told members of Congress that he had a frosty exchange with Loretta Lynch, the Obama Department of Justice Attorney General, when he confronted her about possible political interference in the Hillary Clinton email investigation after he showed Lynch a sensitive document she was unaware the FBI had. This is according to sources who were directly briefed on the matter. You remember Comey said that Loretta Lynch approached him and asked him to stop calling this Hillary thing an investigation and instead to call it a matter. This is when Hillary was answering questions, but no, it's not an investigation. It's a security review. There's no investigation. Investigation's a bad, bad word. And Loretta Lynch went to Comey and asked him to call it a matter, and he admitted to that. Now, during his testimony before the Senate Intelligence Committee last Thursday, Comey alluded to the second exchange after publicly discussing an encounter with Lynch where she ordered him to refer to it as a matter, not an investigation. In multiple private sessions over the last few months, Comey has told private sessions, these have not been in public testimony. In private sessions, Comey has told lawmakers about a second later confrontation with Lynch shortly before the email probe was shut down. Comey told lawmakers in closed-door session that he confronted Loretta Lynch with a highly sensitive piece of evidence, a communication between two political figures that suggested Lynch had agreed to put the kibosh on any prosecution of Clinton. Comey said the Attorney General looked at that document and then looked up at me with a steely silence that lasted for some time, and then asked him if he had any other business with her, and if not, that he should leave her office. Comey took that interaction and the fact that she had met with Bill Clinton as enough reason to decide that he would not allow the Justice Department, i.e. Loretta Lynch, to decide the fate of the Hillary case. And instead, he, Comey, Super Comey, would go in and save the day. Since Loretta Lynch obviously was compromised and was trying to obstruct, Comey would go save the day with his July 5th press conference and offer his own assessment that the FBI could not prove Mrs. Clinton intended to violate the law when she was trafficking in classified information. Another source said that the tarmac meeting between Clinton and Loretta Lynch was the public excuse for not going to Lynch, when all along there was other evidence that was more concerning to Comey. Now, folks, bear in mind here, Comey only seems to have mentioned this as an excuse for going public on July 5th. But this doesn't make sense to me. And if you're a little confused, don't worry. I'm going to go through this again and simplify it. But I don't understand something. Something here doesn't make big sense. If indeed Comey thought Loretta Lynch was obstructing his investigation by telling him to refer to it as a matter and by refusing to deal with the memo Comey had, which said that Lynch was going to put the kibosh on the investigation and basically shut it down. That means shut Comey down. Why would Comey, in the face of her obstruction, why would he go out and close the case like he did on July 5th? This doesn't make any sense to me. If anything, if he thinks Loretta Lynch is trying to obstruct the investigation into Hillary, which she was, it seems to me he would go out on July 5th and explain why the case should not be closed and why he wasn't closing it. And he lists the evidence of laws that she has broken and screw this intent business and announce that the investigation was ongoing. Why close it down when Loretta Lynch is obstructing it and you have a memo, Comey has a memo claiming she's going to put the kibosh on it? Is Comey wanted to be the one who got the credit for putting the kibosh on it? Were there medals to be given to loyal Democrats here for stopping this investigation? Why do this? If Comey's actually investigating bad guys who are breaking the law, trying to shut down obstruction, then he would not want to help Lynch put the kibosh on the investigation. Yet that's what he did. Okay, there were no comments by the female senators at the Trump meeting with the Senator luncheon here. It was just Trump. But we'll have the soundbites for that coming up nevertheless. Now, Judiciary Committee members are calling for Loretta Lynch to testify on Hillary's emails, and Dianne Feinstein, I think she could. I don't think they're serious about it. I think this is being done to create the visual appearance of a Senate Judiciary Committee member Democrat seeking fairness, seeking an investigation of any and all. The target's Trump. The target is not Loretta Lynch. But I'm just telling you, Loretta Lynch obstructed the Hillary investigation at least twice. Meeting with Clinton on the tarmac in Phoenix was obstruction. And from that moment, she should have recused herself. Now, she didn't recuse herself, but she took herself out of it. Recusal means she's literally gone and cannot have a thing to say about it. All she did was transfer it to Comey and others. She could still jump back in anytime she wanted because she didn't recuse. The other time was this approaching Comey and said, "Look, it's not, don't call this an investigation. It's not an investigation. It's a matter." And Comey had this document. Now, there's this document that Comey had. It has come under a lot of suspicion. You might, in hearing about the story, some are saying that that document, I kid you not, this is the document that Comey took to Lynch after she had told him to stop calling it an investigation, call it a matter. After that, he took this document to her, and the document said, was intelligence that she was going to put the kibosh on the Hillary investigation, and that's where she just stared at him and told him to get out of her office. Now, some are saying that that document is a fake that Comey fell for. Some are saying that it is a fake document produced by guess who? The Russians. I'm not kidding. Intelligence community sources are saying that there is no real document saying that Loretta Lynch intended to put the kibosh on the Hillary investigation. It's a fake thing put together by the Russians. That doesn't matter. What matters is Comey thought it was real and took it to her, at which point she reacted by staring at him and saying nothing and then ordering him out of her office. So don't fall for whether or not, I don't think it was a fake. But even if it was, doesn't matter. Comey didn't think it was fake. He thought it was real and acted on it, and she reacted that way. Still to come here, an expose. Why won't an expose? Just a deep dive into what's going on here with Shakespeare in the Park. Some interesting things developing around that. And lots of other stuff, too. I just look at the clock here. I got to go. Don't go anywhere, folks. Back in a sec. By the way, folks, there's one other really important aspect to this entire sordid tale of Loretta Lynch attempting to obstruct the FBI investigation into Hillary Clinton. Now, we know that that happened. With Trump, they're trying to manufacture. They're trying to create a whole cloth obstruction because 9 months of collusion bombed out on them. So now they've moved on to what do I want to say? Constipation, obstruction. But with Loretta Lynch, we know that it happened. We know that when she met on a tarmac with Clinton, we know that she told Comey to stop calling it an investigation, to call it a matter. Remember, there's the third element is Comey in possession of a memo that claimed to say, the intelligence memo claimed that Loretta Lynch was going to put the kibosh on his investigation of Hillary's email server, that whole thing, trafficking in classified data. And he presented that to her. Now, there are people running around saying, no, that memo was fake. The Russians created that memo, and Comey fell for it. And others are saying, no, Comey didn't fall for it. He knew it was fake. None of that matters. The fact is, Comey acted on it as though it were true by taking it to Loretta Lynch. So don't get sidetracked by people who you're going to hear categorize this memo as fake and phony and part of, Russian obstruction, because it only matters what Comey believed and what he did with it. And he treated it as real. I don't care whether he knew it was fake or not. I don't know what, I don't think it's fake, but it doesn't matter because Comey acted on it as though it were real. He took it up to her. And that's where she stared at him icily and didn't say anything for a while and then told him to get out of her office. Well, there's one little tidbit about this. Lindsey Grahamnesty was on one of the Sunday shows, and he said that James Comey did not tell lawmakers that this document, this email, claiming Loretta Lynch was going to put the kibosh on the Hillary investigation, was fake, as the FBI reportedly believed. The FBI believed from the get-go it was fake, but Comey reportedly thought it was real. Again, that doesn't matter because he acted on it as though it were real. He took it up to her. Comey did not, in private session, tell any of these congressional committees that the email that forced him to intervene and shut down the case and do his July 5th press conference, he did not tell them that it was fake. He made members of Congress believe it was real. The FBI is now trying to tell everybody it was fake. The importance of that is there are people now trying to save Loretta Lynch by saying, no, this document saying she was going to stop the Hillary investigation, it was fake. Again, it doesn't matter. Comey acted on it with her as though it were real. And then he testified in private session, this is why he did his July 5th press conference, but he didn't tell them. And Lindsey Graham's ticked off. He didn't tell them that the memo was fake. Because if the memo was fake, this is Lindsey Graham's point of view, if the memo is fake and Comey treated it as real, then he attempted to hornswoggle or buffalo or fool Loretta Lynch. He went up to her, in Lindsey Graham's view, with a fake document that he knew was fake and got her to react accordingly, and then intervened himself and shut down the case, shut down the investigation, closed the case. And Graham wants to know why they weren't told by Comey that the memo was fake. Now, the importance here, if the memo was fake, then Comey knew it, then Comey pulled a real fast one to intervene and take over the case from Loretta Lynch with a fake document. And then, again, what I don't understand about this, and everything I've told you is as simplified as I can make it. It may sound like it's in the weeds, but it isn't. But the thing that I don't get, that I don't understand, is why, if Comey thinks that she's going to shut down the investigation, obviously thinks that she shouldn't. I mean, if she's going to engage in obstruction, why did Comey join her? Why did Comey go out, take over the investigation, do the July 5th press conference, and basically list her crimes, and then say they aren't crimes because she didn't intend to commit them, and case closed? No reasonable prosecutor would ever pursue these charges. Bammo, open, shut case. Why? Unless, and this is a stretch, unless there's somebody somewhere handing out merit badges for shutting down investigations into Democrats. And Comey wanted the credit for it instead of letting Lynch get it. Now, I know that may sound kind of crazy, but would somebody explain to me, seriously, why in the world you got this? I mean, Comey's who? He's Superman. He's Mr. Integrity. He's Mr. Morality. He's Jimmy Stewart. He's the epitome of morality and virtue, and he has learned that his boss, the Attorney General, is going to intervene and shut down a legitimate investigation he's conducting, and his reaction is to go shut it down before she can? Why? This doesn't make sense. Unless... Well, but wait. To keep his job... Yeah, okay, and get the news out to affect the election. But he didn't want Hillary to lose. Can we not conclude that? He was not for Trump. By virtue of the fact that he exonerated her in this. Yeah, he listed her charges and all that. And I know it's September 27th, he reopens the case and so forth. I think we're dealing with... Well, he might play... Yeah, it could play both sides. I think we're dealing with a little megalomania here, or at least a desire to be seen as the power broker. The guy who holds the question of the next president in the palm of his hand. I wouldn't... In that town, and with as poisonous as the pursuit of power can be, I wouldn't discard anything here. It just kind of odd. Lindsey Graham said he thought the Russians were going to release these emails. That's why he jumped in and took over Loretta Lynch's job. I want to know if that's true. Lindsey Graham's point is, if the memo is fake and the Russians did it, then it was the Russians attempting to embarrass Loretta Lynch. And so Comey intervenes and takes the heat so that Loretta Lynch doesn't. I don't know. The only thing that appears abundant to me, abundantly clear, is that seeking the truth of what happened may not be what's going on here. That instead, a lot of people are trying to score points and engage in CYA, and it seems like everybody in the establishment is focused and oriented on getting Trump, and there's a contest to see who can actually do it and thus get the credit for it. Now to Shakespeare in the Park. Greetings and welcome back, by the way. Rush Limbaugh here, serving humanity. The EIB network. Already June 13th. Can you believe? Quarterly taxes are due again on Thursday. The second quarterly payment is due. That's how fast things, that's how we quarterly filers measure the speed with which the year is progressing. We're coming up on the longest day of the year in like a week, 8 days. June 21st, longest day of the year, and it starts getting short. Not really true here. Our southern latitude means our longest day is a little later. We have the best of both worlds here, folks. It never gets dark before 5:30 here, instead of 4:15, 4:30 in the Northeast upstairs, up there in New York. And we'll get to 8:30 at night, latest. sunset. They get 9:15 up there. Who wants? That's not a big deal. That's not a big difference. But man, getting dark at 5:30 is a big improvement over getting dark at 4:30. Let me tell you, totally changes your mental outlook on the day. Anyway, Shakespeare in the Park. This is a big deal for the theater world. You might think this is off. No, this is not off Broadway. This is a big deal. And corporations love being seen. It's connected to this. You have to have lived in New York and understand the New York theater and arts and croissant crowd, coupled with the corporate culture. And it's how they all tell themselves and demonstrate to everyone else that they are cultured and sophisticated and supportive of the performing arts, some of the finest and most valuable elements of high society. And so the actors work in there for not very much, and they do variations on Shakespeare plays. What they're doing now is Julius Caesar, who, of course, as you know, is assassinated by et tu, Brute as he's walking into the Senate. Well, guess who's playing Caesar in this adaptation? An orange-headed Julius Caesar, made to look like Donald Trump, who gets stabbed to death and killed, and the audiences cheer. And it is clear it is President Trump being assassinated. So we know that the left enjoys watching a Donald Trump character stabbed to death on stage. We know that the left enjoys Donald Trump cut to pieces by 1,000 illegal leaks. We know that some on the left actually appreciated the art of Kathy Griffin's decapitation of Trump and that photo op. We know that the left, for the most parts, will actively and loudly and proudly support the political assassination of Donald Trump. And as far as that goes, nothing is out of bounds. Nothing is out of bounds. If collusion won't kill Trump, if obstruction of justice narratives will not kill Trump's presidency, then let's kill it on stage. And we'll call it art. Just like terrorism is workplace violence. Just like in the Reuters-style book, terrorism doesn't exist. There isn't any terrorism at Reuters. No, it's art. The political assassination of Donald Trump is art. It's all in the phrasing. It's good to see just how ugly the left is when their masks of acceptability and sophistication are removed. The Democrat Party is attempting to erase boundaries between countries, and they are attempting to erase the boundaries of civility. The modern-day American left and Democrat Party is attempting to butcher the entire notion of decency, proprietary behavior, and civility. There's no nuance here. The media ignores hypocrisy when practiced by Democrats. But there has been an accumulation of double standards that may overwhelm the media and their elected minions, because these double standards are continuing to pile up on each other. You remember when Sarah Palin was accused of being responsible for the shooting of Gabby Giffords, and then I, secondarily, was similarly accused of this. Why? Well, on Sarah Palin's website, she happened to have a graphic of the scope in a rifle. And that scope hadn't arrived. That graphic happened to be discovered right around the time Giffords was shot. So the left and its willing accomplices are running out saying that Palin inspired the shooting. And it was horrible. Remember what they did to her? They raked her over the coals. They called her insensitive. They said she was an accomplice to murder, an accomplice to shooting. It was horrible. These conservatives and their love of guns and their love of scopes and bullseyes and so forth. And Palin had nothing to do with it. And the left and the media excoriated her. And in any public shooting, be it a movie or a school shooting, the left first tries to find if the perp is a Tea Party member. Then they try to find out if the perp listens to talk radio. Then they try to find out if the perp watches Fox News. Then they try to find out if the perp voted Republican. They never find that out. The perps are always deranged, either apolitical leftists who love Democrats, or they're just insane lunatics. But they are never conservative right-wingers, listeners to talk radio, and they're never Sarah Palin acolytes. But the point is, Sarah Palin had nothing to do with Gabby Giffords being shot. And yet, when it happened, that's the only person the left blamed. Here Donald Trump is assassinated every night in Central Park on the stage. And the left applauds this and says it's art and wants more of it. Kathy Griffin decapitates Trump, and there's some who think that went too far, but privately they're very happy. And she had her own supporters urging her and egging her on and applauding her. Wasn't Alec Baldwin one of them who portrays her? Didn't Alec Baldwin come out in her defense? Or am I confusing him with somebody else? Somebody came out in her defense. When the left actually portrays it, when they actually engage in symbolic assassination of Republican presidents, which they did frequently with Bush, it's applauded. It's great art. It's expanding the boundaries. It's testing the boundaries. It's courageous. It's hypocritical as it can be, but there's even more to this. I have to take a break. We'll come back in mere moments, my friend. I got a note from my old buddy Mark Levin, who has an idea on this. His suggestion is that everybody involved here, Lynch and Comey, wanted Hillary cleared. And the existence of this memo claiming that Lynch was going to put the kibosh on the investigation was a problem. Not for Lynch, but for the objective of clearing Hillary. So Comey takes it up and shows it to her. She's already tainted because she's had the meeting with Slick Willie on the tarmac, and she's already told Comey to stop calling it an investigation and instead call it a matter. So the theory is everybody involved here wanted Hillary cleared. I mean, she's a Democrat nominee. Nobody is going to charge the Democrat nominee for president. And at that stage, it just isn't going to happen. Nobody wants that on their resume. Nobody wants that. You talk about becoming a target. So the objective was to clear her. Comey thinks, here in our hypothetical, Comey thinks that Lynch is too tainted to pull it off. That if Lynch had gone out there and did the press conference that Comey did, that there'd be hell to pay because she's already tainted. She'd met with Slick Willie and some of these other things. She'd already told, which would come out, that she told Comey to stop calling it an investigation. So Comey, who at that point in time was not tainted and was still considered to be Mr. Wonderful and Mr. Everything, did it himself in order to clear Hillary with total credibility. That's a good theory, and it could well be the case. And I'm looking at the clock. I'm really stuck between a rock. There's not enough time to get started with a call. That wouldn't sound good. There's not enough time to dig into another issue. We're talking mere seconds here. There isn't enough time to do anything except wait for the break. So what I'm going to do is tell you we're going to get back to the phones. The one thing left to do, there's actually two things. Well, there's more than that. But the two I'm focused on, the potential firing of Mueller, the special counsel, and the further details on this Shakespeare in the Park business, and a column by a New York Post writer that offers a unique perspective on this that may be accurate, may be right. See what you think when we get back. Okay, there's just one more thing about this, and that'll do it. The big upshot of all this, let's go back to Lindsey Grahamnesty. Lindsey Grahamnesty has said that Comey did not tell Congress that this memo claiming Lynch was going to shut down the investigation was fake. Comey led them to believe it was a real email, a real document that was true, that Loretta Lynch was going to intercede and shut down the investigation in Hillary. That happened more than a month ago, folks. Comey told Congress about this email, this document. He did not say it was fake. The importance here is he led them to believe that it was real. He led them to believe it was real that Loretta Lynch was going to obstruct and shut down the Hillary investigation. Nobody leaked it. Nobody on Capitol Hill was sufficiently outraged at Loretta Lynch trying to shut down the investigation. Nobody said a peep. Nobody said a word. Not a single member of Congress, not a single member of the Senate, not a single staffer leaked any of this to the media. We only learned about this recently with Comey's testimony last week. We did not know about this the entire month after it happened. Everything, most of it fake, about Trump leaked, except the one thing that was truly exculpatory, and that was that he was never a target. The one thing that didn't leak. It is crystal clear that these leaks, it's been clear for a while, were part of a targeted silent coup, a political assassination of the Donald Trump administration and presidency. No question about it. And you have a document that Comey leads Congress to believe is real, that Lynch is going to obstruct and shut down the Hillary email investigation, and that doesn't leak anywhere? Or maybe it did, and the media decided not to use it. Regardless, the fact of the matter is there's a lot that is really rotten here, and it's not on the Trump side. It's on the DOJ side. It's on the intelligence community side. The stuff that's rotten is among the Obamaites and the Democrats. That's what's rotten. That's what needs to be investigated. That's what's pushing the boundaries of the law. Nothing that Trump is doing or has done. Robert in San Diego, glad you waited. You're up next, sir. Great to have you here.
Oh, thanks, Rush, and dittos from Coronado Beach. What I'd like to comment about is we're in a street fight, a political street fight for our way of life, what we voted for.
Absolutely.
And I think if we want to win, and I'm thinking of those hearings last week, I pictured what would Donald Trump do if he could sit there and ask the questions, because he's a winner. And I was thinking what he would say to Mr. Comey would be, Jimmy, let me ask you a question. You just bristled because you thought I would lie. I'm going to remind you that you sat in front of a House chamber on July the 7th, and Trey Gowdy made you list 10 consecutive lies that Hillary Clinton stated. And in fact, he said he didn't want to go over all of her mistruthful statements because he had a plane to catch the next day. And I would just change the story. The jury is the American people who are watching all this, and he had a massive amount of people. And I don't care if the Democrats start a brawl in the chamber or screaming at me. I would have won. I would have taken my 5 minutes and turned it around on what we would have had Trump lost, and then, figuratively flip the bird at all those people that are just trying to take him down on these bogus
charges. Wait a minute. Who are you saying should have done that?
If he had a Republican senator who would ask the right questions, I would have just done a redo of the Trey Gowdy did. Is it true that she used multiple devices but said she only used one? Yes. Is that a lie? Yes. just go through that. But at the end, mission accomplished.
Well, look, it's a great observation, and it's good to make it again. The Republicans are not there. I mean, Rubio stood out. One senator in the Comey most recent stood out for pointing out, isn't it interesting, that everything in the world is leaked here except the one thing that matters, that Trump was never under investigation. That's the one thing it didn't leak. Comey just, I don't know. Look, the leadership says a lot about how these things are going to happen. Leadership can dictate, whether senators or members of the House get aggressive or not. Not saying that they did or involved here, but I don't think there's any big secret that Republicans are part of the Washington establishment themselves, and it's no big secret that the establishment as it exists would rather Trump not succeed. But I'll tell you what, this health care thing that we learned about yesterday, I don't want to get too optimistic about it yet, but I'm certainly not pessimistic about it. This thing took steps and took directions that nobody saw coming, with the parliamentarian ruling that they can pass the Obamacare repeal and replace with reconciliation, which means 51 votes, not 60. And that's going to make it harder for the Senate Republicans to come up with any excuse. They've got 52 votes. They actually got 53 because they can use Pence in there to break any ties. Okay, Sessions was just sworn in. He's testifying about this Russia stuff and collusion, and it's a Senate Intelligence Committee. And this is all going to be about his recusal. I guarantee you it's going to be about that. Well, it won't just be about that, but it's going to be about the reasons for it. Did it go far enough? Should he recused himself sooner? It's not going to be anything about, you didn't have to recuse yourself. Why did you? It's going to be, you're tainted. You should resign as Attorney General. Al Franken made mincemeat of you in your confirmation hearings. How dare you even accept the job? You should have gone to Trump and embarrassedly say you're not qualified and gone away. And here you are, you're the Attorney General. Why don't you quit? Now, that's going to be what they're going to try to do here. And again, this is nothing I don't understand. You've heard what Judge Napolitano said. Well, Judge Napolitano, and I just mention this because he said it, not because, well, he said that this cannot end well. He said this Sessions should not be doing this, that he has agreed to put himself in the target chair, that little, if anything, good can come of this, and wishes that he hadn't done it. I don't know. Since all of this is fake, since all of this, they're trying to get, Sessions had secret meetings that nobody knew about with Russian ambassadors and so forth, and how that could have led to collusion, which they haven't dropped it, obviously, but they are moving on to obstruction now. Let me take a big break here, and we'll be back and roll on. Don't go away. I don't. All right, let me say what just happened. So, Richard Burr from North Carolina just told the Attorney General what they're going to be gunned for, and he better be ready. And he turned it over to Mark Warner, who is a Democrat, number 2, the vice chairman of the committee. And he said, Senator Sessions, yes, it's great to have you back here, Mr. Attorney General, but we understand that you were scheduled to make appearances today before the House and Senate Appropriations Committees. And I just want to state that I hope you didn't come here to avoid testifying over there. I think you should testify everywhere. In fact, I think you should be testifying before the Judiciary Committee, too. He was implying, don't think you can get out of testifying anywhere else just because you're coming up here. So it has begun confrontationally and contentiously, with no reason for it yet, other than the fact that Democrats lost an election that they thought they should have won. Janet in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, I really appreciate your waiting. How are you?
I am fine. Thank you very much, Rush. I'd like to thank you for your wonderful interview with David Limbaugh in the Limbaugh letter. It was very insightful. It was different. And I've enjoyed the other books one of the other books that he had written, and I just wanted to let you know how much I appreciated that. And if people are looking for a Father's Day present, that the Limbaugh letter would be delightful.
Well, aren't you just sweet? That is that's a better commercial than what I would have done for it. That's and my brother is going to be thrilled that you enjoyed his interview.
Yes, it was very nice, and the way he delivered the message that he was delivering in this, and I can't wait to read the book now and share it with other people. After I read it, I will probably give it away to somebody else to deepen their faith.
Well, it's a very Christian thing to do. He would say, keep it and make somebody else buy it. But no, I'm just kidding. He is passionate about it, and that's why he was a great interview. I mean, Mulvaney. When we talked to Mick Mulvaney, the budget director, he was passionate about it's magic what passion does. Passion is it's like a magnet in attracting things and people. So I appreciate that. So will he. Thank you very much, Janet. And let me take a brief time out. We'll come back and wrap this up after this. Well, that's it, folks. Another barn-storming barn burner today. Show was over yesterday, and Snerdley said, when does the second hour start? And I said, it doesn't. It's already happened, and we're finished. He couldn't believe it. And same way today. Fastest 3 hours of me. I appreciate your being here, as always. And Shakespeare in the Park. Didn't get to all of it that I want to, but there's always tomorrow, my friends. So hang in there. We'll see you then. Thank you again so much.